What a fantastic passage from the Parashat Kitavo that explains pretty much so many important concepts about what we're doing here, the things that we gotta fix, and the war that we're facing, the war that we waged against the forces of impurity. So stay with me. I'm going to try to translate maybe not everything, but it's so important, and it will be so clear now that it's not, the Torah is not only a book of stories, and is much more than that. This is the entire blueprint of the creation, and even if as the world functions now, so everything is Torah. Everything is Torah. So he says here, so it's all related to the story of Lavan and Yaakov Avinu. So, okay, I'll start. So, שני כוחות אדירים מהעמיד הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו. כשתי אחות זו לעומת זו, ושתיהן צרות לזו מאז מעולם. So, everything starts pretty much before the sin of Adam HaRishon. And at the sin of Adam HaRishon, we understand that there are now two forces. There are the forces of impurity and the forces of the holiness. And one is like a sister to each other, like also Avraham, like Yaakov and Esav were brothers. One represents impurity, and his Malach, his angel, is the Samech Mem, that is in charge of all the nations and the forces of impurity. And the other one, on the other side, you have Yaakov Avinu, and you have Am Israel. So he says here, so those two forces, they are like facing one each other. From the beginning to the end of the story, which Bezrat Hashem will get to it very, very soon. So also you see in the Parashat Bereshit that after the sin of Adam HaRishon, so Hashem makes he emphasizes that there's going to have now hate between the daughters, the children of the women of the Nachash, technically the women of the Samech Mem, the wife of the Samech Mem, and Chava representing the humanity from which Am Israel will come from. So there's like this duality of those two forces. So it's Hashem's creation. We say Ze leumat ze asa Elokim. So Hashem created those two forces pretty much equal, not really completely equal to tell you the truth, but it's very similar and with opposing forces to be able to finish the tikkun, the correction of this world. So I will continue. So he says, so we have now, Veluen, so the Sitra Dikdusha, the side of the holiness. Sitra, it's like the side in Aramaic. The Sitra Hara, and the other one. We don't even say it's impure. We know it's impure, but it's the other one. So every time you will see in the text, El Acher means the other God. Le Acher Lo Iten, to the other one. It's Acher, the other, means always the forces of impurity. Even Elisha ben Abuya is called Acher. I'm not going to go too far, but it's a huge of our sages of Chazal that eventually turned he turned bad for different reasons, and then he's called now Acher, meaning now he's in the forces of impurity. That's what it means. So Anil Chamot Zo Bazot Tamid. So they're fighting one each other, the two sides. So now what's the purpose of the forces of the holiness? It's to letaken et ha'olam, meaning finishing the reparation of the world, bringing the world to its completion, so we can finally go to the next step. U'bemalchut Hashem, b'mluchat Hashem itbarach levado al kol haaretz. So and then also bring the kingdom of Hashem only on haaretz, meaning on the pshat, meaning on the land, but it would mean something that's higher, meaning that Hashem will be everywhere, recognized everywhere, and the forces of impurity will be crushed, B'ezrat Hashem, soon. So what's the tachlit? What's the purpose of the goal of the forces of impurities? So to do everything they can to block us in our mission, and also they want to expand themselves in the world. And they want to name their own leader, which is the Samech Mem, the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, and all the forces of impurity. So they want to reign, they want to be able to rule the world. So Mimot Olam גוברת המלחמה ביניהם, כאשר בני ישראל מעמידי הקדושה ומסיימים לה במלחמתה, ורשעי האומות פועלים למען הטומאה. So meaning you have now two forces. You have the forces of Am Israel that are fighting the tikkun and the malchut Hashem. So Hashem will be recognized by everyone. And you have here, says, really the worst of the nations of the world, they work for the tum'ah. So know that the Samech Mem is the leader of the 70 nations. And there's different levels in it, meaning there are some that are extremely bad, and the closer they are from the Kedusha, even not physically, but let's say if there was a physical reality in the Olamot, there would be the closer to the Kedusha. This one would be the Chasidei Umot HaOlam. Those ones will be the one that have that would be the closer to the holiness. So there are different levels for sure. Okay, Ad She'avos Zman HaGeula. So we understand there is a fight between both sides until the time of the Geula, the redemption will come. Vayar Hashem Yitbarach vayishbach et Zohar uzo v'az yimaletu kol Hashem u'malchut harisha te'akam. So at this time, as we say, all the ra, all the evil will be uprooted from the land. Land also means something that's much more. It's not only physical; it represents something that's extremely holy. I cannot talk about, but whoever understands, we talk about the Shekhinah. ויש להבין שואל רבנו, so מה עניין רישתו של לבן הארמי אשר ביקש לעקור את הכל? So now we have this story of Lavan. You can take it as a story first level. For sure, the pshat is also the literal meaning is true, but also what was the purpose of Lavan? That he wanted to uproot completely and destroy Yaakov Avinu. He wanted to kill him. להודע להשם יתברך על יציאת מצרים לאחר שירדו לשם יעקב ובניו, והרי צרות רבות סבבו את בני ישראל בכל הדורות, ומדוע נסכמו זו לזו שתי צרות אלו. So he says here, what is the purpose of the wicked Lavan? Rami, it also means that he was a Ramai. He was like a sneaky, like the snake, because his malach, his angel is the Satan himself, so he represents the forces of impurity. So you have this fight different times in the history. When you have one that represents the Kedusha, it represents Hashem, the other one represents the Samech Mem. Now understand that Hashem there's different levels, but Hashem for sure is higher than anyone, but to be able for us to get the Sachar, to be able to finish this tikkun, this reparation, he needs there's rules, and he needs to follow the rules that he implemented himself. So so Chaz v'Shalom, don't even think a second that the forces of impurity have the power to overpower Hashem. Absolutely not. But when someone plays games, let's say with children, so he has also to put himself to the same level, or that would be cheating, kind of. All right. So he says now. יצאת מישראל לאחר שירדו לשם יעקב ובניו, והרי צרות רבות סבבו את בני ישראל בכל הדורות, ומדוע נסכמו זו לזו שתי צרות אלו. So now understand that there are different things that needs to happen, and especially bad things that need to happen to the Jewish people. One of them is going down to Egypt. They have to go willingly to Egypt. Why do they do that? And why both parties accept that the Jewish people will go down to such a terrible situation. So אלא יש לדעת כי מראשית הבריאה רדפה סטרה אחרה אחרי סטרת הקדושה. So from the creation of the world, even before, the forces of impurity that were just tailing the forces of holiness, וחפצה ורצונה תמיד לכלות אל הקדושה מן העולם לגמרי. And they always wanted to destroy completely, to uproot the holiness from the world. That makes no sense, because since it's a Hashem's creation, how can they even think that they're going to be able to do it? But let's continue when he says, מן העולם לגמרי, והיה היו לא תהיה, כי יודעת הסתרה אחריו, ונעיר לה היטב, שכל זמן שקיימת קדושה בעולם, אז אפילו קטנה ומועטת, עתידה היא להאיר את כל החשיכה ולתקן את כל הבניין בשלמות, עד שכל הרשעה כולה בהשם תכלה. ולכן אין הסתרה אחרה יודעת מנוח ומנסה בכל תצכדי להילחם בקדושה. Meaning, so the forces of impurity, the only goal is to destroy us. A little bit like the Iranian. The Iranian was to kill the Jews. That's like an obsession. They're ready to accept all the sanctions and all all the privations and all the things, just to be able to bring Israel down. But the same way, here, the forces of impurity, they never stop to fight us, and they want to remove completely any spark of holiness from the world, because they know that if there's one spark left, so from this spark, it will be able to revive and to amplify and then also to bring light and remove all the darkness from the world. So, but what makes no sense, not here, Chas v'Shalom, but is that the forces of impurity have been created by Hashem himself, meaning that if there's no more holiness, there's no world, and also they disappear. Chas v'Shalom. So even if it's not even an option, but just fighting for something that would create your own destruction seems to make no sense. But I understand, for example, the Iranian, they're ready to blow up the entire half of the planet, and especially all the Jews that are living on the Holy Land, and they would, in retaliation, they will all be destroyed, but they don't care. Since the Zohar also explains that the main goal of the forces of impurity is to destroy everything. There are destructive forces. They just want to destroy. Even the people that work for them here, they don't mind. It's just about destroying. So now we understand, that there's duality and there's war. There's a war lemala, there's a war in heaven, and there's a war here on earth against all the forces of impurity. וכך גם לבן הרמי, so also לבן, בראשיתו וסיכלותו עשה עצמו למרכבה לסטרחה. So to be able to have fighters here in this world, they need to have the force of impurity. They need to have people that they will make themselves the receptacles for the forces of impurity. So that's what Lavan did. So Lavan, he made himself a merkava, meaning a recipient, maybe some form of a podium, some form of a, something that will hold the forces of impurity so they can reside in him and work through him. וביקש לסייעה לה במלחמתה כנגד יעקב ובניו הצדיקים. So he wanted to, he requested help, and he kind of made a partnership with them to be able to wage his war against the Yaakov and his children. בידו, בידעו כי הם נושאי דגל הקדושה בעולם, because he knows that all the sons of Yaakov will be the one that will have the flag, that will wear the flag high, the flag of the holiness in the world. So he knows, if I destroy this family, even if it seems complicated because he gave his daughter, so his daughter seems to come from Chas v'Shalom, from the forces of impurity, and they also join the forces of Kedusha, Rachel and Leah, so that seems to be a bit complicated. It's also, we're talking about these grandchildren that he wants to destroy. So on a very basic level, it seems to be hard to understand, but understand that we're talking about things that they go much over any physical realm. As Degel HaKdusha Ba'olam Be'avot, so the fathers, the Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, are and David HaMelech will come after, and he was Yosef that took his spot, but the forefathers were the one that were the Merkava, the chariot, that's the word, for the forces of the holiness. על ידי בני ישראל שהם חטיבה אחת לקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו ועמדת עם הקודש תלויה בירידתם למצרים ועלייתם משם טהורים וקדושים. So we understand why the fact that they're going to be able to earn being the Jewish people, the nation, it comes with a price. It's a heavy price. And it starts by going willingly to Mitzrayim, to Egypt, and to do a tikkun over there, to do some repair. We'll talk about it in a minute. And when they have to, so they will have to go deep in the pit. Understand that Egypt is not only a physical realm; it's also the worst place in the forces of impurity. Well, they have like different levels. And it's not just one thing, it's different levels. One is worse than the others. And there are levels that are more scary than others. So Mitzrayim represents the most disgusting, the most horrible of all. So to be able to be called Am Israel, they need to go down, and they need to go in Egypt, and there's a mission. We'll see it in a minute. We'll continue. As כאשר רצה לבן לאבד את יעקב אבינו, ולא נתכוון רק אליו בעצמו, אלא חלק עיקרי במגמתו היה לאבד את מפעל הקדושה, אשר לא על ידו יתוקן העולם במלכות שדי, ועל כן רצה לסכל את ירידת יעקב ובניו מצרימה. So he says it's not only killing or destroying Yaakov and his sons, it's also destroying the forces of the holiness, because they are the one holding the forces. You understand that the thing that from the very high realm, spiritual world, they have to go down. So to go down, they need some form of chariot to be able to connect from down here to the heavenly worlds. So if you Chas v'shalom, if you destroy the base, you bring a big hit to the forces lemala, Chas v'shalom. So in fact, it was not only against Yaakov. It was the fight of Lavan was really to destroy the forces of holiness. So they will not be able to fix the world, and not able to also destroy the forces of impurity. And then they have the thought, and they have the dream that will be able to rule the world, that the forces of impurity will rule the world without having any being accountable for anything. So על כן רצה לסכל את ירידת יעקב ובניו מצרימה, שכאמור בה הייתה תלויה עבודת הקודש, והיא חלק מן התיקון. So this tikkun, this repair, we're going to see it exactly step by step. So, but part of the reparation of fixing starts with going to Egypt, going down to Egypt, and we'll see what they have to do over there. ובנה מצרים כשאמור בה הייתה תלויה עבודת הקודש, והיא חלק מן התיקון, ואך הקדוש ברוך הוא הוציא בלעו מפיו, וזממו לא הפיק, וירדו בני ישראל למצרים להביא את הגאולה. So in fact, even if it doesn't seem to be great for Yaakov and the total 70 Jewish soul, they are the main tree and the main branches. Even if it seems like difficult to go down to Egypt to be slave, it's a passage, it's a path they have to go through. So even this path, Lavan was against, and he tried to do everything for them not to go there. All right. So because when Am Israel will go there, when they will leave, they will bring the Geulah, and we'll see that we were pretty much close to it, and the war is never finishing. So there's always ups and downs. So Tikkun Nitzosot Adam Harishon b'Shi'abud Mitzrayim. Now we go a little bit more deeper. So he says, "Vayoru otanu ha'Mitzrayim v'ya'anunu v'yitnu alenu avodah kasha." So it's a famous sentence. It's a famous in Parashat Dvarim and also in Shemot, that the Mitzrayim, the Egyptian, give us a very tough job in Egypt. So you can take it literally, but we'll see what it means. Kol kiyum ha'olam talui b'kedushat habrit. So he says here, and this is the Aber Yaakov, by the way. I think I said it so. It's a very interesting book because they summarize very difficult concepts. They are in the Zohar, they're in the Kabbalah, and they make it pretty much simple to understand. So that's why I thought it was interesting to record it. So Kol kiyum ha'olam talui b'kedushat habrit. So the fact that the world is still alive it all depends on the sanctification of the holiness of the Brit. The Brit, that is the male organ. Now we're talking why we call the Brit, because we're not talking about the one they are Arel, the one that are not circumcised. We're talking about the Jews that are circumcised. As long as they are circumcised, there's a part that is called the Orla. So the part that is removed represents all the forces of impurity, and one of the toughest one that is called Amalek, by the way. And when it's removed, so now we have the capacity to sanctify ourselves. And this organ, this is the holiest organ, needs to be preserved in terms of in holiness. So it has to be used only for the mitzvah of perurvu, for reproduction. And even this, in this mitzvah, it doesn't talk about it here, but I'm engaging into this little conversation because it has to be done within several parameters of holiness. So not every time, not during the day, for sure only with his wife, married, Jewish, if converted properly by a beit din that is recognized, that is serious people, orthodox only. Nothing else counts, doesn't count. When also the wife is not nida, she's not. I mean, there's so I'm not doing I'm not talking too much about it, but it's so many conditions that have to be respected for the holiness of the brit, of the male organ to be respected in a way. And if it's not the case, then there is a desecration of this organ that represents also an alliance with God. And as strange as it could be, the alliance has been done on this organ. So this is called brit. Brit is an alliance. So the alliance, the contract is with Hashem. So if you respect the brit, if you respect the holiness of this organ, then also it's on both sides, meaning he will respect all the nice promises he did to us. And we'll talk about it in Bezrat Hashem in a moment. So he says, Kol kiyum ha'olam talui bekedushat habrit. So all the world is maintained, kind of works through the, or is allowed through the sanctity of the brit. Also, there are Kabbalistic reasons that I'm not going to talk about it here, but it's related to the sentence Tzadik Yesod Olam, and who understands. And when we do not respect the sanctity of the brit, so now the world goes to destruction. So why? Because, for example, for Adam Arishon, it says that he brought back when he sinned, he brought back his orla. So the part that was Mosher beorlato, the part of the brit that is removed on purpose. So we have to do it. That's why we're not born perfect. So it's also, we have the mitzvah. So we can have the possibility. We have the mitzvah to do it, and it counts as a mitzvah for the father to do the brit, to remove the klipa, to remove the forces of impurity from the kid, from the baby. So if not, meaning if we don't respect the brit, so this part, this orla, will grow back, chas v'shalom, it's spiritual. And then the person is mamash not considered as Jewish completely anymore, and he needs to do a very serious tshuva and tikkunim and repair. And it's not simple to be able to fix the alliance with Hashem, and to be concerned, to be to be considered as a Jew, meaning a one that respects his contract. It's a very serious breach of contract. So now we say here that so how does this chilul of the brit? So the chilul of the brit, as I said, most of the things that chas v'shalom are it's like for sure going with a non-Jew, going with a wife, with a woman that's not his, any type of women, Jew or non-Jew, it's the same. It's not the same, but it says it's a karet. It's very, very harsh. Going with someone that is nida. Also zera levatala. We'll talk in a moment. So all the semen that goes out from the brit, not in a holy manner, meaning not with his wife when she is permitted, and at permitted moment with permitted parameters. Very, very strict. It's not like, oh, now I'm married, I can do whatever I want. Definitely not. And there's even very strange things that are in the Rama. I'm not going to talk about it, but there are very strange things about... okay, let's just keep this part. So he says, now, whoever violates the sanctity of his brit, even can we touch it, not touch it, when the man urinates and stuff, even this, it's all addressed. So it's not so simple. It's a very, very holy organ. And there's two sides, by the way, in it. meaning there's a urine that goes to the sitra achara. It feeds them. That's why the Rabbanan from our rabbis, it's not allowed to touch the urine. And there's the semen that is extremely holy. So the same organ, like a man, is he has a part of the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. He has a part of Malach Dikdusha. He has a part of a holiness that inhabits him, his nefesh, his soul, to help him do good. And he has also, unfortunately, a shed, a part of the Ra, a part of the Sitra Achara, part of the impurity that's him to push him to do stupid things and to make himself not holy. And so the same way, there's two things in the same organ. And so you understand now that's why those two things come from the same organ. So now the Jewish people, the 70 soul, and nothing started really before all the brothers of Yaakov died. And after they passed away, it started. So the test started. So we'll see exactly what the test is. Exactly no, but we'll see what the test is. So Israel Shikuim Betor Zua, now they are completely engulfed into the worst place, into the filth of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. And they were similar now to the Egyptian with a lot of their customs and actions and behavior. That's why it's so important for Jews to understand that we cannot mingle with any nation. We respect anyone, but we cannot do and take any of their customs. And we have to be separated. That's very, very important. It's call it whatever you want, but that's the way it is. So in fact, because they took for themselves a lot of their habits and customs, and they were living like Egyptians, so they needed a lot of merits to be able to get out of there. And it's pretty much the same today. If we behave like the nations, meaning going to sports, basketball, baseball, whatever, and television and radio and all the things, it's first of all it's thief, it's a theft, and this is another matter, but I can explain after maybe. It's a theft. It's stealing from the nations. We don't have the right to enjoy everything they do enjoy in this world, like boating and kayaking and trekking and I know it seems to be extreme, but that's the Ramchal explained this in Adir Bamarom. And everyone is his world. They have this one, we have the next one. In this world, they have the right to enjoy. We don't have so much the right to enjoy. We have the right to work for ourselves, because at the end it's going to be for us. But it's the service of Hashem. When we do the service of Hashem, this is also the biggest service we can do to ourselves. And we don't have time to spend or to lose doing anything that is not a Jewish custom. So even, for example, Thanksgiving, I know there's some big poskim in America that say that it's fine because it's not considered as idolatry, as avodah zarah. Nonetheless, this is not a Jewish custom, and it should not be whatever. If the food is kosher, if people are just between Jews and stuff, this is not Jewish. So it has nothing to do with us, and this is bechukot hagoyim lo telechu. This is something that we should not adopt at all. None of the things are not. We have a Torah. Everything is. We have the Sifrei, the books of our tzaddikim, and the Chazal of the Chachamim. Anything else is not part of our customs, and we should not adopt it. Like, for example, shaking hand. Shaking hand has never been something in the Torah. There's one or two cases in several specific situations. But shaking hand comes from the Babylonian, then comes from the Roman, and after the Greeks. So it's pretty much the three galuyot, the three nations that were the more difficult with us and the more assassins with us. So even shaking hand is not a Jewish custom. It shouldn't be abandoned. And other problems, because also Chachamim gazru tuma bayad. So meaning also all the impurity comes from is passed from hand to hand. So when you are shaking someone's hand, you are unfortunately getting all his tum'ah, all his impurity, meaning this is bad angels. So we should shake the hand of someone that was with a non-Jew, or someone that was with a woman that was nida, or someone who was with that didn't do Netilat Yadayim, that didn't wash his hand properly in the morning. And this is all different. It's not like one on top of the other. Yes, it is, but they're all different. So it's this one plus this one plus this one, and it's an army. It's an army of angels that the person now receives. And how do you want the person to have any kind of desire to go closer to Hashem, to pray, to sanctify himself, like it's order in the Torah, when you have all this filth on yourself? It's just impossible. So there was like, okay, go back to the text. So it says here that because they took a lot of they were very close to the Egyptian in terms of the action. That's why now they needed a lot of zchuyot. They needed a lot of merit, not theirs, but we'll see, to be able to be redeemed from Egypt. But our zchut shmirat abrit שנשתה בחובה עלתה על כולנה והביאה לגלותם. So he says here, what is the most thing that they kept the shmirat abrit. They kept the holiness of the covenant, of the brit, of the male organ, and that's why they could have been redeemed, because they were not mingling with the Egyptian, and they were respecting the laws with their wives, and they were unifying with their wives in holiness, and that's what saved them. That's what gave them the merit to be able to be redeemed. So it's gonna be the same at the last, because we say the last. We've been redeemed once. It was Egypt, and it was a terrible place. We will be redeemed the second one. That's also said in our text. So understand that the Zohar says, who does not have the Brit, Kedushat HaBrit, who doesn't respect the holiness of his Brit, will not be redeemed. It's clear, and it says in the Zohar Kadosh. So it's the same condition. You see, it's so important, and that's really the most difficult thing to. That's the biggest test. So, and it all starts, the shiurim about it all start with the eyes. So keeping the eyes and the peh and the mouth, not to be able to do sins with the brit. Thanks to this, Zachu Israel yamshich et midat avoteim. So thanks to this, to the fact that we're keeping the brit holy, so they could draw on themselves the merit of the forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Ben etziratam be'akadosh baruch hu. I'm going to go a little bit faster. Shira'a godel kedushatam sheshau be'arvat haaretz mitzrayim amle'a znut ukshafim bechol zot nata liba me'al Hashem Elohim. So he says that even if this place was full of sorcery and perversion of sexual behaviors that are terrible, even because they kept their holiness and the brit, so so they were now they had merit to be able to be delivered, from redeemed, from this terrible situation. I'm going to have to go a little bit faster, Rabbeinu. So now we talk about the Abir Yaakov, that he says, "Shemevi al divrei pasuk et ma shekatav Rabbeinu Hare." So he explained what the Ari HaKadosh says, "Ki ikar matrat galut bnei Israel b'Mitzrayim ata kedei le'alot et nitzotzot hakdushot shenaflu lesham." So now we're going to understand why we had to go to Egypt. So there were what we call nitzotzot, what we call sparks of holiness. They fall into the klipa, the force of impurity, and that happened from the first time when Adam HaRishon, when the first man did the famous sin that is such huge and such big and such terrible that we cannot even emphasize the depth of this sin. And it was fixed the first time, and okay, forget it. So let's go back to there. So all these notzots that in fact are part of a Jewish soul, that's what it is. This is part of Hashem himself. They are Jewish soul. They fall in the klipa, in the forces of impurity. Now, when there's something that falls into the sewer, you have to go to the sewer to get it back. So that's what they had to do. And whoever will do it will inherit the world to come. That's exactly what it is. And that's why Esav, in the famous story of Esav and Yaakov, is ready to sell his Bechorah, that is Beracha. He sells him being the firstborn, that represents also the Beracha, that represents also the blessing of the Binah, that represents the world to come, because he doesn't want to go through all this stuff. He just wants to inherit everything without to do any effort, any suffering, any commitment. So it's easy for them. They just think that because we're going to fail, so they're going to inherit. Because we are the inheritance of Hashem. So they just think that our failure will be their inheritance. And it's not going to work like this. So he says here, so they have to go to the sewer, to go down to the sewer, bring back all these nitzots. So it has been explained so many times. So מסתגב בייסורים ופרוש מן האישה ופרשו מגופו הקדוש ניצוצות של הקדושה אשר נגנבו על ידי הטומאה ונבראו מהם רוחות ושדים ואלילים, he doesn't say here, אשר בהם נשתכרו אותן נשמות קדושות ועליונות. So he says, so when Adam הראשון sinned, his wife Chava, she received what we call the זוהמת הנחש, so she was so impure that it's like Leavdil, it's like a woman when she has a period. There's a certain period of time when a man cannot approach her because she's extremely unholy, impure. And it's a little bit the same thing here, meaning after the sin, when she was in a contact directly with the forces of impurity, she's so impure he cannot even approach her. And the Zohar says if he had approached her and stayed with his wife, it would have been catastrophe. So he had to separate himself from her for 130 years. And during this time, he was trying to fix what he did. He was fasting, but the forces of impurity were attacking him by night, and they were creating what we call zera levatala or tumat keri. They were bringing they were having him have a nocturnal emission by night, and he couldn't resist. He fought very, very hard on this, and there was two females of the forces of impurity. It's all spiritual, and they were coming into, I guess, his dream, and they were forcing him to and they need, because the force of impurity cannot bring offsprings to the world. They are saris, they are akar, they are barren. So they needed those sparks. The sparks of holiness of a Jewish man are parts of the connected to the physical. It's one thing, and they are connected to the spiritual worlds. That means that it brings to the world neshamot, souls, Jewish souls that are part of Hashem himself. So they needed those sparks, and those sparks of holiness were for 130 years engulfed. They were imprisoned into the forces of impurity. That's the first thing we're going to see. So shalosh pa'amim bikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu le'avin neshamot elu lidei tikun. So now we have those those neshamot. So we have the sin of Adam HaRishon, and the second one, it's not really a sin because it's not really, I mean, it really fought back. And the second catastrophe is those 130 years. And then Hashem now, he has to bring all these parts of those Jewish souls back to the forces of holiness. So there were a few episodes where it could happen. So the first one was during Dor HaMabul. So the first one, we understand that after the generation of Noah was so bad that Hashem to destroy it. So they had, in fact, only 6 mitzvot. They had to refrain for sexual immorality, and they didn't have to do any commandment. They didn't have to do any mitzvah, no Shabbat, no Kiddush, no. They just have to refrain from doing bad. So 6 mitzvot, they had 6 commandments that were pretty much things they should not do, and that would have brought to the world all these notzots, all these sparks of holiness back to the forces of the holiness, and the tikkun was done, the reparation was done, and we'd have all go through the olam haba to the next world. But apparently it didn't work, so it was destroyed. So we had the second opportunity. Now, after Noah went out of the arch, so now there's another. Because it's a different reality, understand, and it's not the same as the Malbim explains. The Earth rotated at 23.5% on its axis. It's a different reality. The physical reality that we know now is the one that came after, or during the flood, or after the flood, after the arch landed. So it's a very different world than it was before. So now they have because also the body was smaller. It's everything is different, so they have now the possibility to eat animals, and that's why they have a 7 commandment that is added about Ever Minachai, respecting the way we deal with animals in general, and the way we deal with them if we need to slaughter them, to eat them. So now they have 7. So you understand that Adam Arishon pretty much he had. The more we go in history, the more it's difficult to do the tikkun, to bring those nitzot, to bring those sparks of holiness back to the holiness. It's because they go deeper and deeper every time, and that's the problem. So he says, so bedor apelaga ubeanshe Sodom ubechol pa'am lo ala davar yafa. So we had another opportunity during the Dor HaPelaga, that is the story of the Tower of Babel. Also, we had the opportunity to do it with 7 mitzvot, and we did not. And now we have Avraham Avinu, so now there's a separation between the nations and Avraham, because there's 70 nations now on one side, and Avraham Avinu that decides now that he will represent he will go for a fight and represent be the Merkava, the forces of holiness. So now you understand there were opportunity for the entire nations to do good, and they did not. On the global level, they cannot. They have to fight for the camp, the side where they belong. But on a personal level, each non-Jew has the option to become Jewish. It's difficult. It means that it's a sacrificing this life, removing of kind of pleasures. Pretty much the life of a Jew until he dies is working when he has to work, and staying and working hard, staying at the midrash, learning Torah all day, and sometimes even by night. And it's pretty much removing all the pleasures of this world and focusing on the tikkun. That's being a Jew. That's it's a life of being very, very tired for lack of sleep, removing all the pleasure, eating not so much, and everything is framed in the terms of you cannot do anything. Everything has to be, there's prayers pretty much before everything, prayers after everything. There's pretty much no hobbies, no free time, no. It's working. That's being a Jew. So if a non-Jew accepts this, sacrificing this world to have the next one, so fine. If it's just a social ID, it makes no sense, and it even not taken into consideration. Just to make a little, we talked about the Kedushat HaBrit, the holiness of the Brit, and also it says that Avraham Avinu, because we're talking here about Avraham, stays at the entrance of the Gehinnom, of the hell, and whoever is Jewish is not entering. So whoever is a Brit, whoever is circumcised is not entering. Meaning a Jew that is circumcised is barred from to enter in hell. Now also someone that is, it says also I have to add, someone that didn't respect his Brit and died without doing tshuva. So it was all the things we said. This one is like the orla, the spiritual skin, grow back on the Brit, and in fact is not considered as Jew anymore, and he will have to go to the terrible rectification that they are doing over there in the Gehinnom, in hell, God forbid. So now we said, we have Dor HaPelaga and Sodom. So we had another opportunity now to fix it. Again, it was from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. So they were supposed to be very holy cities. They were supposed to be, they had in their hands the capability to fix the entire world and to bring the world to his redemption. And the contrary, I'm not going to it much in details, but they did pretty much the contrary. They blocked the system. The fact that they refused anyone to receive any outside guest, to give any charity. Everything was extremely well thought, and it was evil thoughts to affect the forces of holiness and to block them. So they've been destroyed also. So the kol pa'am shelo ala davar yafet, every time it didn't went well. All those, but understand that it's not the first option we had to fix the story. Ve'osifu otam reshaim tuma al tuma klipot. So every time they added more and more impurity on impurity. And I have to say that those nitzot, those sparks of holiness went even lower. So they went even deeper in the klipa, in the force of impurity every time. So bimkom letaken et hakdusha atmuna bekirbam ve'ad she'ardu bnei Israel. So in fact, instead of doing the tikkun, the reparation, they damaged even more. So now the last step, this is the last step. It is now the 70 soul, so Yaakov and his family, sons and family. They have to go down now to Egypt, to Mitzrayim. Sorry, I have to do that. Okay. So once all the brothers of Yaakov die, so now all those souls, the sparks of holiness, are now reincarnated into all the descendants, all the people, all the Jews, the 600,000 Jews that left Egypt. It's all reincarnation of those neshamot, of these souls that were in the 130 years as a mission of Adam Arishon, of the first man that created, as we say, demons and spirits and demons. I don't know if I said it before. ומתוך הזיכוך הנורא שעבר בני ישראל בעבודתם בחור הברזל, אז זכו להביא את הדבר לידי תיקון. So now he will explain how we had to bring how we have to bring those nitzots, those sparks to repair them. So sometimes it goes through the metal. So there was a gzera, there was a decree against the firstborn male. They were to be drawn into the Nile. So meaning it has to be, understand that everything that we do bad has to be fixed. So even if in our reality, when we do something that's bad, okay, we have to do tshuva. First of all, that's the first thing. But after, we also have to do tikkun, we have to repair. And that goes for, we'll do shovavim. There's a special period usually in December, January. It's called February. It's called from Parashat Shemot. And there's a special time to fix all the sins, and especially all the sins related to the Brit, to the Kedusha of the holiness of the Brit. So teshuvah is essential, but it's not enough. So here, same thing. They had to do a tikkun to all the sins of this zera levatala, of this semen that went away, and that was given to the forces of impurity. There's the same thing now. Someone that does zera levatala, even with himself, or with his wife that is not impure, or whatever. I explain everything. All the semen are neshamot, are nitzots that go to the klipa, the forces of impurity. Talking about the spiritual level, the spirituality of the semen. And since there's billions, I don't know how millions or billions of imagine the number of fragments of neshamot, fragments of soul that go to the klipot. So it's terrible. So they have to, with all the babies that go to that were technically killed. This is all the soul that were incarnated. They were really bad at the time of Noah, and so the punishment, or the tikkun, the reparation, I would say, was that they were drowned in the Nile. That was to fix the sin that I did during this time period. She'avdu gam hem bamaim. So oto davar. So the same way they were, meaning they had to do it twice. First of all, they were destroyed, and now they came to be repaired. So for sure, it's terrible, and it seems to be cruel that we have babies that are drowned. But this is their tikkun, this is the way they repair. So understand that the mavet, that death, and especially chas v'shalom, when it's mita mishuna, when it's a very terrible death, it's not by cruelty. This is midah keneged midah. This is the way to fix a sin. So by the cruelty of the death, of the toughness of the death, this is what fixes the sin. So for example, we have okay, let's continue. So we said the first one, they were drowned. After, it says in the passage regarding the Jews in Egypt that they have to work hard with material and stones. So the Dor HaPlaga, the Tower of Babel, they wanted to build the tower with stones, by the way. And it's not they were not stupid. So it's not like they were stupid and they think they're gonna reach heaven. It's much more smart. It's smarter than this. They know a lot of Kabbalah. They know a lot of things. They know how to conjure angels, And the number of stones correspond to something in heaven, spiritual correspondence, and they were really trying to affect Hashem in this as the king of the world, which they can't, by the way, but they tried. So they were trying to remove the holiness from the world and bring the forces of impurity to reign and to be the king in this world. So they build a tower. Understand that it's much smarter than what it seems to be. And so the fact that they had to work after all this reincarnation of all this generation were incarnated into Jews working hard. So that was the way to fix the thing they did during this period of the Dor HaPelaga, the door of the Tower of Babel. Shaya avonam bevinat amigdal milevani. This is what I said, because their sin was that they built this tower of rebellion against Hashem with stones. So everything we went through, all the bad stuff, all the punishment, all the difficulties we had in Egypt, it was because of the sins of previous reincarnations. So there's no, it's always midah keneged midah, measure against measure. Whatever we did, we have to go and fix it the same way, pretty much. So that's how it works. So yes, Egyptians were bad. Yes, they were punished, but also this what we had to endure was for our own good, to fix what we did. And believe it or not, it's the same for the Shoah. It's the same for the Holocaust. Understand that there's no victim for free in the world. It doesn't exist. So all the millions of Jews that were killed during the Shoah came to fix something. First of all, there's a punishment on first level because they abandoned the Torah. Even the tzaddikim, they're part of it, because it says that when there's a shmad, when there's a, God forbid, when the balance goes too much in the forces of impurity because of the sins, even the good people are killed with the others. And the Malachei Chabala, the forces of impurity, they can come and they can kill anybody as long as they see it. So that's the way it works. So that's for the questions. And now, why it was so cruel? It wasn't more cruel than babies thrown in the Nile, or when Pharaoh was how do you say? It was killing them every day and bathing in their blood, more than 300, I guess, in the morning and in the night, whatever. So it's all about fixing the pain that the Jews endure, chas v'shalom, and we don't wish that. But when all the pain we endure, and understand that every second counts, meaning when someone went to a camp of concentration, the amount of days he went there, the amount of minutes, what he endured there, everything that he endured, everything is counted. And this is every midah keneged midah, everything is measure for measure. So everything he endured is to fix what he did in previous reincarnation, plus the sins that he did during his lifetime at this period, if he was not following Torah and mitzvot. So whatever people outrage or not, it's not my business. This is just the reality of the Torah. And that's what he says here. So since all the sin that we do are related to pleasure of the body, pretty much, so the body has to suffer to be able to compensate for that and remove all the forces of impurity that are stuck to the nefesh, to the spirit, to the more materialistic part of the soul. So it's if you stuck something, if you take super glue and you stuck it and you put super glue on an organ, you really have to. It's going to hurt to remove it. That's exactly pretty much the same way. So there's no victim. Someone chas v'shalom dies from a car accident. It's because he was chayav skila. He was supposed to be to receive lapidation, because usually it's about the non-respect of Shabbat. So it seems cruel, yes, but this sentence will also remove the sin, and it will go without this sin, at least in front of the Bedin Shel Ma'ala, in front of the heavenly court. So, and I finish here. Ve'al pi ze muvan madua nakat akatuv lashon ra'a vayiru otanu mitzrayim sheken kol hamotzi. Now, because it says also in the pasuk that at the end they did ra to us, they did bad They did the evil to us. And it says why? Because Ra also, it's called Ra, it's the Ra evil, is the one that does Zera Levatala, meaning that emits, I guess, semen in vain. So all the condition we have pretty much cited. So that's Ra, it's called Ra, it's called evil. So someone that emits, I guess, I don't know how we say that, but semen without, not for the mitzvah of perurvu, of reproduction. This is called Ra, is called evil. So that's why that was to fix. So the Ra, the Mitzrayim, the evil the Mitzrayim they did to us, it was to fix the Ra that they did in the previous generation, in the previous incarnation, by having Zera Levatala, either with other wives that were not pure, or by themselves alone. All these cases count. So he says, Kilshon HaKatuv, Vayi Er Bechor Yehuda. So what do we know that? Because Yehuda, one of the sons of Yaakov, he had a son, is called and if you you inverse the letters. Usually when it's inversed, it's usually bad. It's usually a din, it's usually forces of impurity. So Ra, the two letters, Ra, it's the opposite. והרי גם שעבוד מצרים נועד, סליחה, לתקן את אותו זרע של אדם הראשון. So the Ra, so at the end, all the evil did the Egyptians to us, it's also to fix the Ra, the evil, and that meaning the semen that was spilled out by Adam Arishon for 130 years. Okay, v'yanunu remez eminan hashanim ba'en. So he says v'yanunu. Also, I'm not going to go too fast because I want to finish the shiur. But he says it's v'yanunu. The word, the same word, has the gematria, the numerical value of 130 that represents the 130 years that Adam spilled the semen in vain, and we explain why. Adam Arishon sherawi belo isha, and it was because he was without a wife and he had no other option available. And then from there were all those all those semen was coming out from his body. So because of this one, and it was not his fault, but because of these 130 years, all these forces, all this strength of this holiness was given to the other side, and thanks to that for them, and they could bring so much evil to us during the 210 years of slavery in Egypt. And at the end, they give us a very difficult work, that is to fix to all the sins, all of the previous generation. So I hope you enjoy this little shiur. It's all from the Abir Yaakov, and that explains a little bit of the path we have to go through. Understand that now we have, since the Torah was given, we have not 6, not 7 laws to follow. We had 613, and we cannot cherry and pick. It doesn't work like this. We have to follow all of them. Why? Because we have to do now for each one and for all the 600,000 major master neshamot, soul, we have to fix ruach, nefesh, ruach, neshama, the 3 levels of the soul. And until it's fixed, nobody can go rest in Gan Eden. Nobody can go and rest in heaven. It's not possible. So nobody wants to go and come back in Gilgulim and reincarnation, one after the other. I'm not giving details, but this world is really the last, pretty much the last occasion, the last opportunity we have to fix until it's completely gone and finished. So take things seriously. We're here to work, not here to enjoy. The time is short. The task is huge. But as we say, that if someone really devoted his life to the service of Hashem and its meanings also to the reparation of his own level of soul, then he will have a place in the world to come. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.